Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Holistically Healing Me. I'm Ardelia with my wonderful friend, Pastor Lady Sylvia. Tell the people how you doing.
I'm doing well. It's been a
Yes,
long day. It's trying to storm outside, but it's beautiful on the inside. We got
amen.
a good topic we're going to dive into, so I'm all is well.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I agree that this has been one of those um, days. It has been a wonderful, it's been one of those days. And the
Hmm.
topic is right on time because there was such a spirit of chaos. I tell you, everywhere. It was so chaotic.
Wow.
So it was right on time. This is a right on time topic. And our topic for tonight is he motions, she motions in
Yes.
relationships. A very good topic. I wanted to kind of Hello, Rodney. I wanted to kind of chime in with um, some things that I had noticed that was kind of flooding the internet over the last couple of days or so. And it was about a bishop who
Hmm.
actually killed his wife
Oh,
in,
wow.
yes, in a domestic violence type of thing. And apparently it had been something that had been going on for a long while.
Hmm.
However, um, it had ended in tragedy. And
Wow.
we want to touch on that just a little bit later on. But to just set this up a bit, he motions and she motions in relationships. This is something that is extremely serious because we carry so many different things into relationships, and especially when those relationships has not, or you within yourself, you haven't worked on the things that needed to be worked on, and then you
Right.
walk into a relationship, it can cause major issues within that relationship. And a lot of the times
Absolutely.
we don't have the proper tools that we
Hmm.
need in order to heal from the things that we have that has been traumatic, and things that it has happened in our lives. And then you also have the issues of, I seen my dad do this, so therefore I'm also, this is the way that I think that it should be. Or I've always seen my mother do this or my father do this, so that's the way that I live my life as well. And not necessarily, someone told me this not too long ago when I was telling someone about myself and how I'm extremely quiet, and how I grew up around much older individuals, my grandmother and my great grand, and they were both quiet women. They wasn't very talkative at all. So I was cool with being in the house with them and reading a book or whatever. It was just a pleasant thing, and I just happened to be that way. And the person said, "So you plan to be like that forever?" I said, "Well, I kind of like the calmness."
Hmm.
So, some things that we can learn are good things, and then there's other things that we have learned behaviors, cognitive learned behaviors that's not so good, and we can carry them into something, and it can not just be disruptive in personal relationships between husband spouse, but it can also cause the same type of ripple effect even when it comes to friends, other family members, as well as employers.
Right.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And not even just like we do have learned behaviors, but then sometimes when we get into relationships, whether it's a marriage, a dating, a friendship, an employee, just a general relationship, we're ill prepared for that person's perspective or that
Mm,
person's view on what they think a relationship looks like, you
right.
know, because as long as we're in our familiar environment or we're amongst our family or our friends or our community, our individual society, that type of language is okay. That type of communication is okay. So
So
I
true.
remember going from just high school to corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a culture shock, just the conversation and the type of communication. Um, the way that people dealt with each other and how they handled situations. You know what I'm saying? So communication is everything. And when you think about marrying someone else or dating someone or having a close friend, they have their perspective on how to handle conflict. What is morally right and what's not? What's the standard for moral? What's the boundary? They may think I didn't go that far. You know what I'm saying? And so it's sometimes it's something in life that you cannot prepare for until you meet that, because each person is different. And
Yes.
so when you meet that person, it's a learning opportunity on the spot. And then if you
Hmm.
don't have the wisdom on how to handle that or seek counseling or seek a way to deal with it, it can, worst case scenario, end up like the bishop that you were just talking about,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know. But if you have some type of skill set whatsoever, and you say, hey, we disagree. Let's figure this thing out. Let's figure a compromise. Let's figure a medium ground. Let's
Yes.
figure out how we're going to work through this. Well, you believe this and I believe that. Let's create our own values, or let's decide what's right and wrong. Let's have a source for what, the Bible is our standard or a resource where we go to determine, okay,
Yeah.
how we're going to handle this, or a person, an older wise person, someone we both trust that can mediate between us. If you don't have that, and you're and because I've found that sometimes people are saying the same things, but they're saying it so differently.
So true.
Right, we're both saying we want to go to the store and buy bread, you know what I'm saying, but then we're arguing over, well, I'm gonna go at 5 o'clock, we need the bread before dinner. I'm gonna go at 3, but dinner ain't till 7. You know what I'm saying? You're both saying the same thing. You get in an argument between 3 and 5, and then ain't it 7, and it really don't matter because it's gonna take 5 minutes to warm the bread up. You know what I'm saying?
So
But because
true.
right, because of lack of communication, and this is how I was raised, and even
Hmm.
something as small as how do you clean? Or well, I clean, I start this way first. Well, at the end of the day, it's clean. You know,
Yes.
so like something as tiny as I was raised, you're supposed to start right here first. So communication is, I'm not gonna say communication, but intelligent communication, free flowing
Oh yeah.
communication, communication with a mind to understand, communication, with the will understand that listening is a part of communication, not just
Right.
talking. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Listen with the intent to understand, from a place of empathy and sympathy of what that person is saying and having, or trying to say, because if not, it can be volatile even unto death, which is
That is so true.
extremely unfortunate.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And you touched on communicative styles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, really, really important. I think that a lot of times, a lot of us kind of get that we don't see the importance of that when
Mm-hmm.
you come together, how
Mm-hmm.
communicative styles can be just totally different,
Mm-hmm.
one to the other. And it can be something that at first you thought was funny and cute.
Right. Yeah.
And and then later on it's like, that's
It's
not funny.
annoying.
Yeah, that's not funny at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
diving into he motions, she motions, I wanted to kind of go with the fact that, one of the things that we're prone to say on here is that healing is a process.
Yes.
And even though we're told, with his stripes we are healed, and we
Mm-hmm.
are, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still a process. Even Jesus himself had to go through processes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know that that's just what has to be. There's a process in all things. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and another thing that I had looked at with the he motions and she motions is that abuse really comes in all different forms.
Mm-hmm.
It could be emotionally, mentally, it could be physically. It comes in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those things that take place or you're learned is learned in childhood. You
Mm-hmm.
either saw it, you heard it, and then you begin to mimic it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you bring those things into the relationship, you know, not even understanding or even knowing that it's an abusive behavior.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you saw it, you heard it, you mimicked it, or sometimes you saw it, you heard it, you hated it, and so you did the opposite of it, or you shut down and you don't communicate at all. You know,
And
you
that's
come
abuse too. Hmm.
right. Yeah, you come from such an abusive and volatile situation where words are used in a negative and an extremely hurtful way, in a way where you're warring against each other, until you so despise that you say, I'm not going to be like that at all. But then you get into a relationship and then you don't know how to communicate. You decided you weren't going to be like that, but you never learned how you were going to be. And then
Wow.
you're stuck with the inability to effectively communicate at all. And then you said that healing was a process, and it absolutely is. Like, by his stripes we are healed, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that. And but
Mhm.
pain is a process too. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Because when you initially start, pain can be so painful until even a person who's well versed in great communication, when a certain type of pain hit, you can almost lose the train of thought on what you know. I remember talking to an officer of the law one time, and he said he had been in the law for years, like he was a senior, he was over so many people. He said he got a call one day, he recognized the address, and it was his daughter. And everything cool about him went out the window. He forgot protocol. He became the person calling. He was frantic. He was all over the place. All his years of training and him guiding his subordinates and people under him, and being the person that everyone went to for wisdom, and they call him. It went completely out of the window because his emotional state at that time was challenged because it was something personal.
it was
Yeah,
personable. Yeah.
yeah. So pain is a process too that precedes the healing. And what you do in those first stages of pain is vital. Your level of communication and how you handle it is vital, because it can become detrimental to all parties if you don't pause and really use effective and intelligent communication. Hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, David, what's your he motions, she motions?
I was trying to start it off. I mean, did you identify what? I just came in. You guys just discussing right now, so I really don't know where to start. Maybe I guess just thinking about the topic, he motions and she motions, really took me to number one, the man. How today I associate it with how our young men function today. Everything that you see, it's not because the violence. I'm talking about, the negative things that people are taking in about our young men today. Uh, the violence and all the madness is really uh, emotional men.
Mm,
Emotional men not knowing how to handle their issues, the pressure, because as men, we are under a lot of pressure. And when you turn 18, whatever, you leave your mama house, whatever the case, pressure comes. It's on. It's on at that point. And it just builds up as your experience build up. And sometimes not even that. Life is gonna handle you until you learn how to handle it.
wow.
Yeah.
And men that it develops pressure. And we
Hmm.
have to learn how to process that.
Hmm.
It must be processed. It can't be held in. You can't go hide in a cave, or it's gonna come out one way or the other, and you're not gonna like it because it's not gonna come out the right way. Pressure, when only thing that busts a pipe is pressure. That's emotions built up. Only thing that busts a pipe is pressure, and it don't bust it to go out the right way. It busts, and it goes out the wrong angle. It
Hmm.
That
has
is
to be
very true.
repaired. It takes some healing. It begins to rip some things up in your life. It doesn't take a busted pressure, anything that pressure busts, it doesn't take a natural effect. It takes a destructive effect. So some healing has to take place. And many times men have exploded in different ways. And they
Mm,
think, oh, there was nothing to it. No, my man, you just told some stuff in your life. You just told yourself that it was okay to blast off on a woman. You just told yourself it was okay to abuse your kids, put that anger on your kids. You just told yourself, that it's okay to go off on your supervisor. You just told yourself that it's okay to just blast off on a man and say these crazy things and do these crazy things to another man or a human, period. You just told yourself these things. And it's gonna build up and it's gonna build up until you run into somebody else that has pressure as well. And there it is, destruction.
Come on.
It's
That is so true.
And
That
so
is so
look
true.
at just looking at that, these men just they can't communicate, so they act out emotionally. That's where you get men that try to control situations physically. They got to put their hands on it. Dude, they can't communicate with another dude. This dude may be crazy, but you can't think rational. You're talking to him, and when it looks like it's not going your way, emotions kick in. Now you're shooting the guy, you're jumping on the guy, all this foolishness that doesn't amount to anything. It's not called tough. That don't make you tough because you put your hands on somebody. But we have that misconception because men are being raised by women that are emotional, not a bad thing. They're watching that, and it's natural. A woman have to be. If my woman wasn't emotional, we would have a messed up household. This would be a house full of testosterone. It's her emotions, that a woman's emotions, that softens a man's heart. Men came out of us. So it's not a bad thing that a woman that carries emotions like that, because that's the soft side of us. It's okay. But men are taking that as if this is the way it's supposed to be. And then they're raised by men that are emotional men that never learned from another man not to be emotional. So they get it from both ways. It's our fault. It's our fault. Because if we haven't given them an idea of what a solid man is, how to handle, how to have a outlet, how to have, how to deal with the pressures of life, then they're not going to know. They're not going to know. And as much as we want to point fingers, we want to do all these other things, it's our responsibility as men to stand up and show a man, walk with these young men that are acting out in emotions. And we want to, they boys. You want to call them boys because they haven't learned how to handle themselves. That's all good. But while you're calling them boys, call yourself weak. Call yourself admit that you have not done your part. We cannot degrade them without looking at ourselves. We all have a responsibility. We do. And those that are full, what they say, just taking off with it, that have grabbed the mantle and have been running with it, bless you. Bless you, men. And I pray that more men come along with you. I'm trying to do my part on my end. And it's our responsibility for us to do our part. Because those that I can't reach, other men can reach. And I hope they hear this. They can reach that. But emotions, that's emotions that they got to deal with. You got to grab that young man. Hold him tight. Come on, just let it go, young man. You got to be able to let it go. Come on. Listen, I talk about that, holding them tight, because this is what I was known for on the inside. But we talking about prison, y'all. On the inside, I would hug men. Dudes, man, get up off of me, man. Get up, this and that. But I did it anyway. And men knew me from that. And if they know me now, they know I'm going to embrace them. I'm going to embrace them with the love that's inside of me. I'm a man that's been wounded. I'm a man that used to operate off of emotions. Sometimes I still have to control it. I still have to control. It's not something you just master. You just learn how to control that thing and not let it lead your life. But I have an outlet. But again, I embrace those men, and you'll be surprised how many men told me, look, man, I've never been embraced by a man that didn't have ill intentions.
My God.
Men that hurt men in a sexual way, rape men. What are they operating off of? Emotions.
Yeah.
Thinking about their past hurt, and they want to hurt somebody else. And
Tainted
it happens
soul.
like that, becomes a cycle. It becomes a cycle. Why? Because they never dealt with that issue. They never dealt with it, and not enough men are talking about it, saying, "Hey, man, come here. Let me talk to you. Yeah, I had to deal with that too, but this is how you process that. That's not how what you're doing now is not how it go. But we outcast them instead of dealing with them, helping them out, walking with them, because they're broken just like we're broken in different ways. And sometimes we just see it different. Yeah, we hate that they did what they did.
Right.
But if you allow that cycle to continue, guess what? There are going to be other victims, and those victims are going to get them some victims, and it becomes a cycle out of control. And you never know when that victim come and victimize somebody in your family, and you probably
Mm.
could have stopped it at an early age. You may
That
not
is
Wow.
be there, but
true.
the cycle
Oh
comes
wow.
around. Do you hear me? The cycle
Yes.
comes around.
It comes around. It
It comes
continuously comes around. Matter of fact, the way that I had written it down was carrying a tainted soul.
around.
Mm.
And you know how you begin to harvest that negative emotions,
Right.
and when it's within you like that, it becomes contaminated. It's
Mm-hmm.
like every conversation you can find something negative that takes you right back to that time when Uncle Bubba did so and so to me,
That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
or when my, instead of, you know, my mama being there to be with me, she would rather be this place or that place or with this person or that person. But what about me? That whole thing or thought of neglect. You're
Mm-hmm.
in a full-fledged relationship with someone that tells you, hey, I'm about to go and I'm going to take care of this business and do whatever, and have a flat out panic attack
Mhm.
because you had not dealt with neglect,
Mhm.
Right.
and will promise to God, we talking about she motions now,
Yeah.
promise to God that he's out there doing something that he shouldn't be doing when he's actually really taking care of business.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But that's that taintedness that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll keep you full of that, your heart full of darkness, where you will start believing others in the heat of the moment, which Pastor Sylvia was talking about, in that heated moment, and not really grasping the root of why you do what you do and why you say what you say. There is so much healing in just that alone.
Mhm.
Once you have accepted the fact that I behave in this manner because, dang, I seen such and such, that's the way they moved. Their pain is not even the same with your pain, but you're just operating with that. And you believe that everybody around you in some form or fashion is out to get you, harm you, or wanting to cause some type of conflict with you. And sometimes it can be just as innocent. You have no idea that you done hurt this person's feeling by any means, but it done triggered them into another, in a place of abandonment of or neglect in some form, some in some way, and you have no idea that you even done that. But they don't vocalize it, they don't
Mhm.
speak it, they don't speak it out. So there's no way to bring it up, and then you get caught up into words. One person is saying this, like Sylvia was saying, and the other person is saying this, but you're actually saying the same thing. I need your attention, but you're saying all you want to do is just go out and hang out and do this and do that, and you up in this girl face. Why you in her face? And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I wasn't in nobody's face. I didn't do that. I promise I was minding my own business.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a reflection of one thing that you were saying, David, of not having that strong force of even having a man in their lives that have taught them the proper way of how to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
That's another major issue.
Yeah.
That's a major issue.
Yeah.
If you've never been around that or had examples of what man is, then you don't know what a man should be. You have already placed in your mind on what you've heard this one say and that one say, and they're talking about their tainted souls.
Mm-hmm.
They're not telling you what a real man and how his functioning of how he is to present before his children, how that is, and how detrimental it is on development. She's not talking about that. She's talking out of a hurt.
Mm,
ain't no so and so. They ain't no good.
mm,
They ain't no good. Every time you hear it, they ain't no good. They ain't no good. None of them. Well, then you gonna really believe that none of them are no good. And the very one that is good that you cross your path, you'll make him feel like he out of his mind.
mm,
Like, I know I'm a good guy. I don't know what you talking about. And I mean just going totally left field
mm,
with it.
mm.
That's just my take on that particular part that David happened to bring up.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that what I hear, not only the topic he motions, she motion, but what I hear both of you saying is unharnessed emotions. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Coming from both a male and a female, right? It's a couple of scriptures that come to mind. One is a root of bitterness. The
mm,
second one is, although the tongue is the smallest member of the body, it's the most unruly. You
Mm.
know, it's the
Yes,
hardest to tame.
yes.
um and so when I assess it or just look at the conversation as a whole, is that if you have unharnessed emotions, the Bible says train up a child the way they should go. It says older women teach a younger woman how to love, how to run a house, whatever, right? And so not whatever, but it says older women teach a younger women.
yes.
If nobody is training and teaching
Wow.
what to do when these emotions arise, right? Then they will take on a root of bitterness and they will create a personality of their own that can stay with you for the long run. Okay, if and they're never dealt with, that emotion can turn into bitterness. It can turn into a spirit of offense. It can turn into low self-esteem. It can turn into anger, which is the root of murder. And because when that emotion came, it was unharnessed, it was unkept, it was unbridled, and no one said, okay, when you feel angry in this situation, this is how you handle it. This is how you need to stop and evaluate what's going on. You need
Yeah.
to pause and say, why do I feel angry? Is
Yeah.
this an intelligent thing for me to do? You know, another scripture, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. That's something that I constantly remind my children of, or anyone that I'm counseling or talking to. Okay, let's stop and just take a step back and let's look at this situation. You're not dealing with a person. You're
Mm,
dealing with a personality. You're dealing with something
mm,
behind it. And so, you got to train them. Take the personalness out of it.
mm.
You got to take the emotion and put it in a class by itself, and learn how to use cognitive skills and reasoning skills and to evaluate a situation. However, the thing is this right here, you have people who are immature, right? And when I say immature, I mean like they have not learned and developed successful skills set to operate in with wisdom and understanding in different areas of their life. When you have a child as opposed to their parent, and something breaks out, the parent operates on a more wise and more mature level. Why? Because they've lived life, they know how to handle it. A child does not. Well, you have some adults who have never learned how to um, come up to that mature level. And so when their emotions come up, they're still acting immature. He talked about men fighting. Let's talk about women breaking things. Let's talk about women throwing things. Let's talk about breaking phones, and just you know uh letting your emotions take you to a place of just a dishonorable place. You know what I'm saying? Where even a good person, their good can be spoken evil of because they've never learned how to harness their emotions. If you don't know how to harness your emotions, it can destroy a great person's personality. It can tear
Right.
down your whole life. Like Brother LaDavid, he said he works in the system. There are probably some phenomenal, good, godly people in there in the heat of the moment, did not know how to control their emotions,
Yes.
made a decision that thwarted the remainder of their life. And now they are on the side of the law behind bars
Yeah.
because in a moment they didn't walk away. In a
Yes.
moment, They let their anger pull a gun. They let their anger make them have a fist fight. It's so important that when those emotions rise up, you have to know, okay, how am I going to deal with this in this moment? And my thing is this right here. Before I say a thing, before I do a thing, I don't within 30 seconds flat, I've already analyzed the consequences of my words and my behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I make a decision to subdue my flesh. I
Mm.
make a decision
Yes.
to hold my peace, because it's not always important that I prove to people who I am. It's not always
Mm,
important that I speak
That's
what's
right.
on my mind.
That's
It's not
good.
always important that I give them a piece of my mind.
That's
You know
good.
what I'm saying? I have to let it go, and I got to trust God, and
yes.
say, you know what, I'm gonna give this to them, and and God will vindicate me. I know who I am. I know whose I am, and the battle is not mine. This belongs to God. And I walk away, and they may think I'm a fool, and that's between them and God. I don't care,
Mm.
but I made a mature decision in the moment to harness my emotions, and then you have to make a decision to even constantly forgive, because if not, it will take a root of bitterness, and
Yeah.
that is something that you can pass on from generation to generation. You can have
Mm-hmm.
hatred in your heart, you can have bitterness in your heart because of how Joe Blow did you, Susie Q, Sister Watermelon, whoever. You know what I'm saying? And you begin to treat all people like they're criminals in your life.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you gotta make the forgiveness is a choice. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's absolutely not an emotion, because sometimes you're still gonna be angry.
Yeah.
Sometimes that situation is going to reverberate itself in your mind. It's going to come back up, and you have
Yes.
to tell the devil, "I forgave them."
Right.
And so, what is
Absolutely.
what does forgiveness look like? It looks like the same way you want God to do you when you've done something and you got on your knees and you prayed about it. He has got to forgive you. You don't want to wake up every morning with God reminding you, right?
Right.
So
No.
when you make a decision to forgive that person and get rid of that emotion, then you have to begin to live like it. When you harness your emotions, your actions will convey that.
Mm.
So when you will know you've matured in your level of emotions, because it will begin to show through your actions and how
Mm-hmm.
you handle a situation. When you have an opportunity to curse and you keep your mouth shut. When you have an opportunity to shame someone and you choose the latter. You know what I'm saying? When you have an opportunity to fight and you walk away. When you have an opportunity to have an outburst, or throw something, and you subdue your flesh. So and he motions and she motions, I hear unharnessed emotions. So unbridled emotion.
Come
And
on.
just, what I'm saying, just asking God for wisdom and skills on, Lord, show me how to handle my emotions in the moment,
Yeah.
and let my behavior, my character, be a reflection of that. And
Mm.
that's when you know I've harnessed my emotions.
I got a question. I got a question I want you guys, I want to put out there. Okay, a lot of men deal with women that have that's dealing with brokenness when it comes to their emotions from whatever their past and everything. And a lot of times they put that off on men, and men don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it. And if you have a woman that may have heard about this being brokenness, and they may be, even you guys can testify if it's true, they may even think about it on their own time. Something, I know I shouldn't do this, or I feel that I may have a problem, but they never express it to anybody, right?
Yeah.
If a woman wants to do better by her man, and she knows she's broken, what type of outlets, or what would you guys suggest? Maybe two or three things that you would suggest that would work for a woman who may want to change, need an outlet. What do she need to do in order to prevent letting that out on her husband or another man, period?
Well, I really truly believe that one of the things that I particularly had to pick up for myself was journaling. That was something that actually worked for me. And it has worked for a lot of women, matter of fact, because when you begin to write it down and you see it, like you start out, and I'll tell anybody, start out with just, or when I have clients, I would say, start out with just writing what your thoughts are. I'm hurt because of this. He said this to me. And then you begin to see that it had nothing to do with the fact that, something as simple as, I told him to grab the orange and he acted like he couldn't hear me.
Mm.
It has nothing to do with the fact of that, but it has everything to you. When you begin to write, you'll begin to identify with that there was an issue where in time where you felt like you wasn't being heard.
Mhm.
So anyone, regardless of how minute it is, when you feel like you're not being heard, you're going to do one scream. And the other thing that you would do is cause or speak insults.
Right.
What, you deaf? You deaf? You deaf?
I can
But
see
that's
Sabina
one of the
head shaking right now.
I'm pretty sure there's women like, why she just say that? But it's the truth. So my thing is that I can speak for myself that was one of the ways. And then what was so amazing about journaling, and I usually do that if I'm coming to a place where it is really difficult for me,
Yeah.
then I begin to journal. And when you go a year later and read those journals, you're like, girl, you outpouring about the most ridiculous thing. Lord, thank you for deliverance.
Mm.
But there is great deliverance in journaling.
Yes,
That's one of the ones that I definitely use. What about you, Sylvia?
And I have a couple of things for the women and for the men.
oh,
I
go
do agree with
ahead.
Ardelia. Journaling is extremely effective. I may not journal, but sometimes I'll write things out before I do them. Like if I want to have an argument, I'm gonna write the argument out on paper. Everything I feel, everything I want to say, I'm gonna write it out on paper, and then I'm gonna put it up for a couple of days. And then usually within a couple of days, when I pull it back out, I'm glad I didn't, because a
Hmm.
lot of times I was wrong about what I was thinking or what I was feeling. Okay.
Exactly.
The second thing is, I'm fortunate and blessed to have older, wiser women in my life. So the second thing is, don't talk to your girlfriends. I don't talk to women my age. I don't talk to single women who ain't got no man. And that doesn't mean they don't have wisdom, because God gives wisdom who He wants to.
That's
I'm just
good.
saying, narrowing down my choices to the most optimal, best choice.
That's good
I
stuff.
go to an older woman of God who's been where I've been, who's who's what you call it, they passed the test, and they
Yes.
still, and they
They
yet holding
overcame.
on. They
Hmm.
know the word of God. They got a red line to Jesus. They know how to get a prayer through, and they're gonna give me some real wisdom. They're gonna say, "Shut up, sit back and be quiet." There's safety in the multitude of counsel, and it says, "Older women teach the young women." So young women should be looking for older women who know how to teach. So that's the main thing. And then when you're in a relationship, you have to, the Bible says, to honor that man as unto the Lord. Sarah called Abraham Lord. You know what I'm saying? You got to put into perspective, this is the man of God in my life. This ain't Joe Blow who I used to date. I'm in a covenant
Come
now.
on.
And
Hmm.
I made a vow before God to honor him. And you got to keep that vow at the front of your mind, that you're going to honor him as unto the Lord. And you check your behavior through those lenses.
Mm.
It does my behavior or my response honor the Lord? If it doesn't, then don't do it. And then fourth thing, dude, you gotta pray, you gotta ask God to heal me. You know what I'm saying? There's times I pray, Lord God, if you don't heal me, I can't be healed.
That's
Lord
right.
God, I know I'm always coming to you praying, but I'm coming to the one who is, who's able to help me, God. And so here I am again, Lord. Help me. Heal me, God. I need your help. The Bible says, call on to God and he will answer you and show
Yes.
you great and mighty things you know not of. So if you don't call, he can't answer you. And I don't care how many times you call him. People say every time you pray, you come. I don't care how many times you got to go, keep going. And then for the man that's dealing with a broken woman, you have to understand that if a woman is broken and if she's hurt, it's because somewhere in her past her trust was violated.
That's it. Hmm.
And if you have chosen to love a broken woman, then that comes with the territory. And the same is true for women. There may be some broken men.
Hmm.
Okay, and after you made a covenant, it's too late to digress. Now you got to walk that thing out, right? And you got to understand that hurting people hurt people. And so you can't take it personal. You see what I'm saying? You got to understand, okay, they were hurt. And so because you said, yes, I agree to this relationship and I want to be with this person. So now what? Now you got to put the work in. And
Yes.
now you have to show them that you can be trusted, that I'm not your past. And they may just need that from you as their spouse. They may need that extra phone call. They may
Mhm.
need that extra checking in. They may need a little extra quality time until they reach a place where they are healed. And then you cover your spouse in prayer. You make them understand that your intention is true. You know what I'm saying? You can't, and then you don't attack them when they're hurt. You don't attack them when they're insecure, because this is gonna it's going to add fuel to the fire. You have to ask God for a level of patience,
Mhm.
because this is the person that you said God gave to you. And so it's going to take patience on the side of the person who's having to deal with the broken person, if you do not address that in counseling prior to making a covenant. But once you're in the covenant, now you got to put the work in on both sides.
Mm.
So if I have a man that's broken and I already went into covenant with him, there's a certain level of patience. I don't mean putting up with abuse. No, absolutely not. Verbal or physical. You know, those are things you don't have to put up with. Point blank, period.
Right.
Like the young folks say, period. But there are some absolutes and some things that are unacceptable on either side of the fence. Abuse is never acceptable. But working through the hard times and working through how we're going to communicate, what can I do to reassure you, you know and then that person doing their work, getting the counseling they need, journaling, writing their emotions out. You have to just put the work in until you overcome that.
I agree. I think that one of the other things or topics that I wanted to talk about on this subject was expectations.
Mm,
A lot of times, we can go into a relationship based upon expectations. And the moment that those expectations have not been fulfilled,
Mm.
it's easier to become very resentful. A lot of people do that. They could be in a relationship where an individual said, I support you with this, and that, and the other. That didn't happen. You decided to stay. Or it can even be where I've seen this also with individuals that I have dealt with counseling, that um, the the husband was an artist before he met his wife, and he had come to a place where he wanted to go back into that. And she was like, well, we have 4 kids. You can't do that. That ain't gonna bring you no money.
Mhm.
But the part of fulfilling himself, he continuously had to neglect that part.
Mm.
That can make a person become very resentful.
Mm.
right.
It can, yeah, and it hurts. And that's goes for a woman with a husband as well. No, when I got married, I expected for my wife to raise my children. I expected for my wife to be here when I get back. I expected for my
Hmm.
wife to have my food on my table. I expected for my wife to do these things and the other. But yet and
Hmm.
still, she was an individual that was highly intelligent. She had a career or something that she had wanted to do for her life, or to make a part of her life, to fulfill her. And you can easily become resentful. You have these little petty arguments that means absolutely nothing, but nobody's talking about the core or the root, and the fact that I feel resentful because the expectations that I thought that I would be able to have at this point, I do not.
Hmm. Ardelia, I think that's extremely it's true for a lot of couples. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times when I'm not just for young people, but a lot of young people, they have this ideology or fairy tale of what marriage looked like, and then they look up 10 years later and they've lost themselves. And at that point, I think that counseling is necessary because
Yeah.
it's easy to become bitter when you see the waster has allowed you to waste so many years, and not necessarily wasted years. You may have bought a home, raised beautiful children. You may have accelerated or progressed on your career and done well, but you put your personal dream to the side. And then and you later on in life discover this is who I am. This is my passion. Oh my gosh, I've let that go. Okay, well, when you got married or when you got the relationship, that takes precedence. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
so now the reality is those kids came first. The reality is you got to have somewhere to stay. So now you probably need to get counseling on how to deal with the loss. It's almost like having a burial for your dreams, like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You're going through a
Wow.
grieving process of the things that you lost. And many times there are ways to recoup those dreams, to still revisit those dreams, to incorporate those dreams into your life, but you cannot abandon your priorities and your responsibilities because you want to digress and go back to something you thought you lost. You can find a way to still pursue your passion without neglecting what's important. And so at that point, maybe a pastor or a licensed counselor or someone can intervene and say, okay, let's see how we can still do this. And you maintain what's your primary responsibilities, what's important in your life.
I want to. We're at the end. God, you guys said so much, but you talked about that counsel, and if it's okay, I wanna put something out there. And I'm gonna speak. Well, you guys spoke from women, and what both of you said, journaling. Both of you said you talk to women. You have some single women that hold wisdom that will speak into your life. Check. You have married couples that speak positive and speak life into your marriage. Check. You have
Mhm.
elders that speak wisdom into your life. Check. Those are the ones that you surround yourself with. Those are the things, the tools
Absolutely.
that you have given, and many times women, and see, I wanted to get to that, but I haven't. Sometimes I hear women say, women are so messy. I have better relationships with men. So they don't have relationships, no meaningful relationships with women. But then you're married. You can't have a relationship with a man, and you got a man. That's what your relationship focus supposed to be. But that comes from emotional hurt. So now you have
Mm-hmm.
set this standard in your life.
Exactly.
How can you fix that? You guys gave that. You have to understand and find, you have to follow and find those women because they're there. They're not
Mhm.
absent. They're there, but you have to have a heart to seek them out and to want to be that. For men, it's the same thing. I know you said counsel. Y'all need counseling. The Bible talks about it's not you. Yes, we need that one person. Not saying that is not possible, but you guys gave the answer, the ultimate answer from the Bible. You have to, if you're not in that mix, well, you got a single man that will give you wisdom, or you don't have a married man that will give you wisdom, or you don't have an elder that will give you wisdom. And it says the Proverbs 11:14, 24:6, it's talking about the value of counsels, the value of advisors. That's
Yeah.
not somebody with a legal degree,
Mm-hmm.
not
Not
necessarily, but
necessarily.
these are people that are in your life that you got check now. X, this person talking, they talking about leave. Now that ain't scripture. That we ain't suffering no abuse like Jesus. They ain't hit me with a cat of nine tails. So now we ain't doing that. But having that multitude of counseling, you got to have, and I'm speaking to our men, you got to have that. There's men around, but you have to learn to trust. You have to learn to trust and obey the signs. When you feel like something ain't right, you know you need to move around. It doesn't matter how bright their smile is and how cool they seem to be. When something tell you right here it ain't right, move around. Move around until you find that person. But they are there. But you have to be intentional in your prayer, as you said,
Amen.
Lady Sylvia, in your prayer about it. And God send these people your way because it is His will for you to
Mhm.
have this team. And I was asking that, and this was a, I mean, this thing could have went a lot of ways. I want to thank y'all for bringing it up, and I hope somebody got something from this today. But emotions, having those emotions, men got them and women got them. We
Yes,
all got them, and we got to deal with it. Because if not, we're
Mhm.
just putting stuff on each other.
that's
We're
right.
putting stuff on each other, and we steady fighting. When you might not have a bad relationship, it may not be a bad relationship, but both of y'all got some issues that y'all not dealing with to make this
Mhm.
thing work.
So true.
Mhm.
You know?
You know what? One of the biggest things that I didn't know is that people do not want to um, be. I'll put it like this: my thought of intimacy is something totally different than most.
Mhm.
My thoughts of intimacy has to do with me being able to be comfortable enough to trust you with the all of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that one dimension of what you see, like this. Oh, she's poised, and I tell you about the surface stuff. Surface
Mhm.
stuff is just that, the kids, how they doing? Oh, they will. Not that. I'm talking about those that the things that have cut,
Mm-hmm.
the hurts that you're still working on.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it comes to the like we was talking about resentment or disappointments that I
Right.
may have experienced in my life, even failure that I may have had endured through life, knowing that I can come to you and trust you with this is intimacy to me. That's what
Right.
intimacy is. And the biggest thing when it comes to intimacy, and that's the reason why most people have never experienced it and think it's only physical, but it's knowing that when I do share this information, it's not going
Right.
to be thrust upon my face as
Right.
a dagger.
Mhm.
That's major, because what that end up doing is causing a person that have had abandonment, a person that
Mhm.
has had things like unforgiveness, bitterness. Usually they're going to shut you down and shut you out.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So in those type of situations like that, I think that is significantly important that one, most people have not experienced intimacy and didn't had no idea that it had nothing to do with physical at all. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be, it's actually intimacy. The act of intimacy is when I can entrust in you the all of who I am and know that I'm not going to be hurt by you because I have become vulnerable before you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of the issues when it comes to relationships
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with, especially a person that has processed their emotions and in a place where they can actually share them in a like how Sylvia said, in a positive way where you're communicating effectively. I don't like that you did this to me, and this is the reason why. This reminded me of this, and that don't feel good to me. That's intimate right there.
Mm-hmm. I want
Versus,
no,
la, la,
yeah.
la,
I just want to give this to the men based off what you said. You talking about throwing stuff back in the face, talking to a lot of men, and many times that's what they feel about women. They try to trust them, and then they
I
trust
agree.
them with something and they throw it back in their face. But I want to tell men this: listen, don't be weak. You got a car, you drive your car, it break down while you trying to go to work, and you get mad about it, but you find out what the problem is with the car, fix it, and still go use it to go to work and do other things with it. And something else break down, you find out what the problem is, get it fixed, and then you keep going. We have to still do that in relationships because one thing we will do, we will shut down. When we try to ask you for peace in the home, and you act like you don't get it, we'll shut down. If we try to talk to you, we want to share our day and you don't want to hear it, we will shut down. If you reject us in a, you know, too many times another way, we will shut down and we are subject not to pass that way again. But guess what? 10 years later, that marriage becomes dead because you shut down and you didn't have to.
No,
She ain't perfect, just like you not perfect. We'll holler in a minute. You ain't even gave me a chance. We said we working on me doing what you asked me to do when you asked me to do it, and not just waiting 6 months. Now I've done good a couple of times. Now I've done it again. You know what I'm saying? Look, we neither one of us are perfect. We're not perfect. So don't put that on, even though it hurts.
That's so true.
Don't put that on her. She's not perfect. But try again. I'm talking to myself, y'all. I'm talking to myself. I don't mind talking to myself and y'all.
That's good though.
We gotta walk this thing out. We gotta walk it out.
Yeah.
Don't be weak. Still trust her. Still try to trust her. Still try to talk to her. You gotta get out there until it gets better, because down the road it gets better. It gets better.
Yeah.
I'm done, y'all.
I believe that silence can bring forth destruction.
Yes.
And silence can bring forth destruction.
Oh man.
All right, go ahead, Sylvia.
No, I think what both of you said was great, and I just agree in closing that number one, you said, Artie, you got to process it, and then Liddell said it takes time. You know what I'm saying? If you process it and understand it takes time, and you work on it, and he said down the road it'll get better, you will look up and you will have developed strong communication, and and what started out rocky can end up being extremely beautiful. you know like two peas in a pod, whether it's a friendship, male, female, or even if you got a really good friend, that goes the distance with you. You can look up 5-10 years down the road and just have the best conversations.
Yeah.
You'll begin to laugh at things that once made you angry because you took time to understand that person. Go, oh, they don't mean nothing by that. That's just their way of being, whatever. And it's just more lighthearted, you know what I'm saying? And you'll find that arguments are just lesser and lesser. And I'm at a stage in my life now where I we don't want no arguments. I don't have time for it, and I'll just avoid it altogether, until I learn how to communicate. But you said process, it takes time, work on it. And I would say in the heat of the moment, stop and evaluate it. Stop and
Yes.
ask yourself, is this worth it? What am I about to do? You know what I'm saying? And like we talked about LaDavid's profession, I just think he probably has the most experience of seeing people who did not just do that one thing that could have saved their entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
That's
wow.
Good. Mm-hmm. That's good. That is good. Y'all taking it in. That's what it looked like. Everybody's just taking it in right
Yeah.
I hope somebody can breathe right now. Did y'all feel that?
I did. I actually exhaled.
Just let it out. Just let it out. You will be free. If you just take everything we talked about, you will be free. I heard somebody say that process is purpose.
Amen.
Process is purpose too.
It is.
Process is purpose too. Follow the process. Walk through the process. Be encouraged because it's beautiful on the other end. It's beautiful when you guys land that, what you say, Lady Sylvia, that understanding. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful when you land on understanding. You eventually get there. And it's just good when you get there. But you have to follow the process. It's part of purpose. It's part of purpose.
It is a part of purpose. And I think that that's the major thing, is that I am truly one that believes that God unites certain individuals together, and it's a kingdom marriage.
Yeah.
I believe it with all my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. There's just certain people that, God honors all marriages.
Mm-hmm.
You get married, it's a covenant. He created it. But then there's these kingdom marriages that I think are just extremely special. Yeah. And what makes them so special is that they're going to go through hardship. They're going to go through up and downs. They're going to go through all kinds of things. But yet the purpose, the God purpose in it. Find your God purpose in this relationship. Is God in it? I think that's number one. Is God in it? Because sometimes you could be with somebody else's husband and somebody else's wife.
My Lord.
Yeah.
Now, so you first got to discover, is God in this?
Yeah.
And then once God has released to you or shown you that he's in it, then you need to find out, now, what is the God purpose of it?
Amen.
I think a lot of times, if that will kind of dissipate a lot of arguments, also, because you're able to say, once you've gotten that understanding and you've had this discussion with your mate, the God purpose for this is this.
Mm.
And that person understands that, and you two are on the same, wavelength about it.
Yeah,
I think that you can always bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
that's good. That's
You
good.
can bring them back with that. Like,
Mm.
no, God put us together. And because God put us together, the purpose that God put us together is this, this, and that. Because there's always a ministry in it.
Mm-hmm.
This it's not just two people that, that's put together, and I like you, you like me. You make my toes curl. It ain't. It's beyond that. It really is. It be beyond that. It's a ministry
Yes.
that God has placed inside of that kingdom marriage that makes it so unique and so beautiful. So that's really what I wanted to share. That was my closing.
Mm. That's it.
We never want to go because it's always so good. I am so grateful again for our wonderful, beautiful, smart, ambitious, loving, kind, generous Pastor Sylvia. I
I
love me
thought
some
you were talking about me.
him.
I'm
I'm
saying-
just kidding.
My head was
Was you,
going.
was you giggling? Did you get giddy?
Y'all know I'm
Oh
serious.
God.
Y'all
But
know I'm
and
serious.
also we certainly give thanks to God for our wonderful Pastor LaDavid. And
Amen.
you bring such a dynamic and
Mm-hmm.
bring to life for the men
Yes.
that
Amen.
have never heard anyone else one speak truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one thing when someone can just point out and say, you should do this, is that, but when someone that can actually be so raw to tell you their truth, that realness, it can't help but to equate the ears to, like, oh, I gotta chime in
Right.
what he gotta say. What you gonna say next?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift. So I am grateful for this panel. Every
Powerful.
time is just a blessing. It's really a blessing.
Yes, it
He
is.
emotions, she emotions in relationships. What
Let's
a
get
wonderful.
free, y'all. Let's
Yeah,
get
let's get
Yes.
free.
free. It's
Let's
time,
get
right?
free. It's
That's
time.
it.
All right. Well, until next time, we thank you so much for tuning in to Holistically Healing Me. And we ask that you be blessed and that God show you your God purpose. And that's in every
Amen.
aspect of your life.
Yes.
Know your
Amen.
God purpose in that relationship first. Is it God? And what is the God purpose for your marriage and
Yes.
for your
Amen.
relationship? Figure that out. And then you
Amen.
guys can come together. But until next time, have a wonderful and
Y'all
blessed night.
later.
Bye.
Bye.